Hey, I got a question for you. Why do less qualified people continue to get promotions over more qualified people? That's the question I want to ask. Why do less qualified people get promotions while more qualified people miss out on the opportunity? That's what I want to unpack for you today. I know why. I'm asking you a rhetorical question, but I actually know the answer why. And I'm going to share why today because you might be inadvertently or intentionally capping your career because you don't understand why less qualified people end up getting promotions while more qualified people don't. And let me be clear, I've been at the executive table for more than 25 years for a wide variety of roles, from a consultant to being in the C suite myself to being a person who picked people for the C suite. And here's what I want you to understand, that I've seen it over and over again. The strategic thinker, the person who performs at the highest level, the person who has the greatest outcomes, that have been the innovator inside an organization. I've seen them do incredible work, but when the time came, they didn't get the promotion. Now, you might be asking the question, Anton, that ain't right. That's wrong. Yeah, I know it's wrong. It should be different, but it's not different because there's multiple reasons why less qualified people end up getting promotion. And I've seen it time and time again. And this is what it looks like. I want to first break down and blow up the myth of meritocracy. So we've heard this phrase probably more too often in the last 6 to 9 months about meritocracy, that we should let the best person win. The best person should get the job, that there is this myth around meritocracy. And they're basically saying that if you have the performance ability, then you should get the opportunity. That sounds true in theory. It probably is true when you think about the NBA or when you think about the NFL. The people who got the skills and the ability, they get the opportunities. But in the business world, in corporate America, you can have all of the skills and all of the abilities in the world, and it will not merit you the opportunity that you probably deserve. You might think it's going to merit you the opportunity that you deserve, but it doesn't merit you the opportunity that you deserve, because meritocracy is a myth. It is not at all about performance. It's about three other things: perception, positioning, and power. Perception, positioning, and power. Now, for this conversation, I'm not going to lean deep into power, but I'm going to lean into power alignment. I want you to understand that getting promoted is about perception, about positioning, and about power alignment. See, people think it's about just doing the hard work. They think about it's about getting the work done. It's thinking about being successful and making sure that I hit my goals, my KPIs, that I achieve the metrics that I told my leadership team that I was going to achieve. No, that's not it. It ain't even close to it. It's about the perception that people have about you in the workplace. It's also about how you position yourself and where do you see yourself positioned in the organization. And the third thing that it's about power alignment. Those three things. So here's what I want you to understand as I move deeper into this context. I want to break those three things down: perception, positioning, and power alignment. I'm going to give you some other words that I want you to understand, that getting that promotion is about this. And the person who is less qualified probably has a lot of these things going for them. When I mean going for them, they don't get them naturally, but they have done some things that have put them in position so they can get the opportunity. So what is it really about? If you want the promotion, you have to understand that it's about influence, it's about optics, it's about succession, and it's about strategy. Those are the things that promotions are tied into: influence, optics, succession, and strategy. So Anton, you probably saying, Anton, what do you mean it's about all of those things? Here's what I'm telling you. I'm telling you, being excellent at work is the baseline minimum that you need to be doing. But being excellent won't get you promoted. The question you need to ask yourself, are you essential? See, being excellent is good. You want to be excellent. And I'm confident that you are excellent. You went to the right school, you got the right credentials, you took the certification, you go to the training classes, you got the master's degree, you got all of the things that says excellence. But that's just the baseline. You got to be more than excellent. You got to figure out how are you essential to the next iteration of work in the organization. Are you really essential? Let me give you an example before I tell you the three things that people, fail to do or they do the wrong way. I'm gonna give you this example. I'm working with a large financial services organization where they were having conversations at the executive team level about succession planning. And so each senior leader was asked to come into the room. And when they came into the room, they were asked, okay, when we have our next meeting, I want you to come back with 3 people who you see as your potential replacements. That you need to just evaluate yourself, evaluate your team, your whole department, the people who directly report to you, or maybe someone who doesn't report to you, but you see them with the ability to replace you if you were to leave this organization. If you were to retire, get promoted, get a better opportunity, if you were to leave, who are the 3 people on your succession plan? So I want to ask you this question. If your senior leader was invited into that room to have that conversation and they had to name 3 people, is your name going to be one of those 3 names? Really? I'm asking you a question. Is your name going to be one of the 3 names that senior leader says that I believe that he should have this opportunity or she should have this opportunity? See, if you're being excellent, you would think that your name would be on that list. But being excellent ain't enough. I just said that it's about understanding whether you're essential to the organization. And if you're not sure if you're essential, I'm going to tell you the 3 buckets that people fall into of why they don't get the promotion, okay? And why they think they should get it, but here's the reason why they don't get it. Here's the 3 things. Number 1, you over-rely on outcomes. Over-rely on outcomes. Now, what do I mean over-rely? I'm literally saying that you perform at the highest level, but you're the person who says, I'm just going to do the work and let my work speak for me. I'm just going to do the work and I'm not going to toot my own horn. I'm going to just get it done. And my boss is going to see that my numbers are better than everybody else's numbers. That my boss is going to see that I am the best leader on this team, that I'm the best senior executive that we have, that I'm the best. They're going to see through the data and the KPIs why I'm the best. Those metrics are important, but you can't over-rely on the numbers to tell your story. You can't. The second bucket of mistakes that people make is that they underestimate the importance of narrative, like your story in the workplace. So what do I mean your story in the workplace? I'm not going to get ahead of myself, but you got to ask the question. When you're not in the room, when nobody's looking for you to be in the space and they're having a conversation around who could potentially be the next level leader, what story are they telling about your journey in the company? Does anybody know your story? Do they know you started at the bottom, now you're here? Do they know that you were highly recruited into the company from another industry or from another company because of all of the amazing things that you did? Does anybody know your backstory? Do you have a narrative? But most people who get passed over for promotions, they don't have a narrative. They underestimate the power of having a narrative. So I want you to understand that that's a mistake. that if you over rely on outcomes and you underestimate your narrative, you're losing. You're hustling backwards, as one of my friends would say. Now, here's the last mistake that people are making is that they are loyal without leverage. Now, when I mean loyal without leverage, I'm not saying being loyal to a fault. I'm saying that you ride or die with the team that you own. Like you ride or die. You like, they got my back, I got theirs. I'm loyal to my team. And that's great. You should be loyal to the team. But you also have to understand that there are levels to teams. And if you're not leveraging the team that you're on to be seen, to be optically seen, to be influential, to be valuable, then you are making a mistake. So I'm going to give you, with the few minutes that I have left, and I'm not going to take long today because I got some more work I got to get done, but I really want to give you some value today. I want to give you 4 shifts that you need to make. That if you're wondering why less qualified people get the promotion and you don't, and you want to shift that, you want to shift it in a way so that you get the opportunity, that you're not necessarily sitting on your laurels, but you are being essential to leaders in the organization. I'm going to give you 4 mental shifts that you need to make and 4 things that you need to start doing, and they're going to be one and the same. Okay. So you got to think differently and act differently. Think differently and act differently. Okay. So the first thing you need to do is you need to master the value transition. So when I say value transition, let's go back to your work ethic. So you got high performance numbers. You are performing at the highest level. You're hitting every KPI. You're hitting every metric. You're all of the stuff that you're supposed to be doing that's in your job description that you get evaluated on. You're knocking it out of the park. But as I told you last week, you good, but it still ain't good enough. Now, last week I talked about you don't know why you're not good. But this week I'm telling you that you might be over relying on outcomes and metrics. And that's the reason why you're not having an impact. So what do? You got to master the value transition. So when I say value transition, just think about values connection to your work. Does your work do any of the following? Does your work increase revenue? Does it improve the company's reputation? Does it help the company reach more people, more customers, more services? Does your work reduce turnover or increase retention? So again, you got to think about what's valuable to the company. They want more revenue. They want to reach more customers. They want to have a better reputation, and they want to keep the good people on the team. There might be other metrics that they care about, but those 4, you need to be able to answer the question that my work, my products, my services, my team, the things that we do increase revenue, it increases reach, it increases the reputation of the organization, it reduces risk. That's the other one. Like risk. Every company is recognizing that risk is a real thing, and risk costs money. So you want to mitigate risk as much as possible as a corporate entity. So the question is, do you see the value of your work connected to any of those 4 things? If you don't, you need to make a shift to start to align the value of your performance to whether you increase revenue, reduce risk, increase reputation, increase reach, and increase retention. You got to focus in that way. If you can't answer those questions, then that's why you may not be getting promoted. Here's the second thing. Does your leadership journey tell a story? This is real clear, right? Does your leadership journey tell a story? That if you are not in the room and somebody says, tell me about Bob, what are they going to say? Bob is the CMO. Is that all they're going to say? Or are they going to say, man, Bob is an amazing person on this team. Did you know before he came here, he was the chief marketing officer at Disney, and he's the guy that built the brand of Elsa and Frozen? You know how big that movie was? Yeah, Bob, it was so many things with Bob's idea. Are they telling a story about you? Is there a narrative about you? Because when the C-suite team gets into the executive room and they're asking for 3 names who are in the succession plan, they're not talking about people's KPIs. They're telling people stories. So do you have a leadership story in the workplace? If you don't, then you probably won't be getting promoted because stories sell, facts only tell. See, the facts are you hit every KPI every quarter for the last 10 years. The facts are that you've been working at this company for 15 years and you started from the bottom down here. Those are all facts. But what's the story around it? Is there a project, a team, a challenge that you overcame, something that you brought to the table? Is there a story that people tell about you? If they don't, then you haven't mastered the important part of narrative. You have to have a leadership story at work. That's the second shift that you need to make. Here's the third shift, and this probably is tied into the story. When strategic moments happen in the organization, are you seen or are you unseen? I'm going to repeat that. When strategic moments happen in an organization, are you seen or unseen? If there's a crisis, are you seen or unseen? If there is a big new launch that's happening, how are you seen or unseen? Or are you just going about doing your work? To use a sports analogy, when the Super Bowl is being played, are you making plays that people will see? Or are you just doing your job? See, everybody's got to do their job. If you got people on the team and on the field, everybody's got to do their job. But we all remember the people that make plays. Like I remember Santonio Holmes in the Super Bowl for the Pittsburgh Steelers and the Arizona Cardinals when he made that one-handed touchdown grab in the back of the end zone to help win the game. That's a moment that sticks out. He was seen in a strategic moment. So I'm asking you, in your workplace, when strategic moments happen, positive or negative, are you seen or are you unseen? And if you're not seen because you just like doing the work and you don't worry about taking the credit, you don't worry about nobody knowing what you're doing, you're making a mistake. You're making a huge mistake. And I'm not saying run out there, look at me and hold my hands up like you Antonio Brown, which is another problem child. I won't go into the problem child of the Pittsburgh Steelers. But here's what I'm going to say to you. At strategic moments, are you seen? Are you seen by your leadership? Are people telling a story about what you did in those strategic moments? If you're not, you might be missing the greatest opportunity to elevate beyond just your performance, but to a place of being essential in the organization. That's number 3. Now, here's the fourth one. Fourth one is really important. You have to ask yourself this question. Am I strategically positioned to be beside power? I'm going to say it again. Am I strategically positioned beside the power in the organization? And when I say power, I'm going to use a short analogy. Not really analogy. I'm going to tell you very shortly what this is. I'm going to ask you this simple question. Does your boss's boss know your name? See, your boss's boss is in a power position. Your boss might be too. But I'm asking you a question. Does your boss's boss know your name? Do they know what you do? Do they know anything about your narrative? Do they know your performance metrics? Why am I saying that to you? Let me explain it to you this way. About 10 years ago, I worked with one of the largest healthcare organizations in the United States of America. And they hired me to be a consultant and a facilitator over a deep research project that they were doing. See, this deep research project was focused on the pathway to the C-suite, the pathway to the CEO. And what do I mean pathway? They were trying to build a pipeline of more women, more people of color in executive roles in this industry. They wanted to say, okay, what's the pathway to become CEO? So they basically did a deep dive research project on every woman and every executive of color that sat in the C-suite of an organization, particularly the CEO seat, but literally everybody in the C-suite. So in doing this research and doing this analysis in this depth, here's what we learned. And I'm going to share you not all of their proprietary information, but I'm going to give you one big metric, and it relates to this proximity to power. And that is the people who accelerate their career into the C-suite and into CEO roles throughout their career, they were always known by their boss's boss. So let me give it to you in a hierarchy of an organization. You got the board of directors, you got the CEO, you got the C-suite team, and then you got people who report to the C-suite. So if you are a person who reports to a C-suite leader, if you report to a chief, the question is, does a CEO know your name and know what you do and who you report to? If they don't, you don't have strategic proximity to power. Let me move up a level. If you're in the C-suite and people on the board of directors don't know your name, then you're not in proximity to power. And let me go a level lower. If you're a director who reports to a VP and that VP reports to somebody in the C-suite, if people in the C-suite don't know your name, you don't have strategic proximity to power. And so the people who get promoted might be less qualified, but here are the four things that they have. They have mastered that their work that they actually do is tied to revenue, risk, reputation, reach, or retention of the talent. They have basically clearly laid it out. That's the first thing. They've mastered the values transition, or translation. They've mastered that. The second thing they've done, that they tell a story about their leadership journey, that people know their story. When they're not in the room, people are telling their story like a movie. See, that's the thing that I always had going for me, is that because I became a very good storyteller of sharing my own story, that when I wasn't in the room, there were people who could tell my story. It's how I got into so close proximity to the president of the United States, because people knew my story. They knew my work, but they knew the story around the work. So if you haven't mastered your story, if they don't tell a leadership story about you in the workplace, you might not get the opportunity that somebody less qualified might. And number three, as I said, are you seen in strategic moments? In the strategic moments that happen in your organization, where are you? Are you invisible? Are you there when it happens? Are you in a room when it happens, to use the Hamilton phrase? Are you in the room where it happens? Or are you sitting off in the hinterland somewhere? I'm just doing my job. Well, doing your job is the bare minimum. And again, the last one is, do you have strategic proximity to people in power positions? Those are the four mental shifts that you need to make if you want to be the person who gets the opportunity. Because less qualified people, they might be less good, but they get promoted because they've mastered the value transition. They know how to tell a story about their leadership and have other people telling the story for them. And in strategic moments, they showing up and they showing out. And their boss's boss knows their name. So these are my questions for you today as a leader. And if you, again, I'm talking to you about what happens at the elite levels of every organization. You can question it if you want to, but I promise you, I've been in more boardrooms and executive tables than you have. I promise you that much. And the tables have had bigger stakes than the tables you've been at. And I'm not bragging at all. I'm just saying that I've seen this too many times. People crying on my shoulder about why they didn't get the opportunity. And then I ask them, how have you tied your work to the metrics that matter to the company? Revenue, reach, reputation, growth, risk management. How have you tied that to them? Do people know the story of your journey in the company, in the organization, where you came from, why you still here, why they should pay attention to you, and what good you do? And then when things are happening, good or bad, does anybody see you? Do you show up? Is there a level of impact that can be measured by your participation? Are you seen in the strategic moments? Then my last question is, does your boss's boss know your name? Note that I didn't say, do you know your boss's boss name? Because I'm certain you know their name. You should know their name if you're paying attention because you got aspirational goals to get to that level. But the question is, do they know your name? And do they know what you do? And do they know the value you bring? So that's what I got for you today. I appreciate you watching. If you got value out of this, please share and comment. If you want to subscribe and get content like this, go to antongunn.com/subscribe. Join my blog. I'm going to unpack this in a blog post tomorrow. And more importantly than that, I'm going to give you a resource that's going to help you to make sure that you are the person who gets the opportunity. And remember, excellence doesn't guarantee elevation. Being essential guarantees your elevation. Everybody have a fantastic day.